Hello and welcome to my next video. I've got a page here of a picture of my twins that I'm going to be doing using some pens, some inks and these ovals. So I start off with doing a frame around the outside of the page. This is because I want to retain all of my colour within these borders. Often the frame is what we do at the end, but this case I've started with my frame. So now I'm laying down some ink to create a background for this page. I am going to use two different colours. I have the broken china that I'm using here, and now I'm using the faded jeans, and this is just to create a nice background for me to layer my photograph and everything on top of. Just moving my photograph in place there just to see how much of the page to take up with the inking, and so I just continue with this. Now I'm doing this page on ovals. It's not a shape that we use that often, and this is for a challenge. I'm offered a retreat this weekend and the challenge was to use ovals on a page, and so this is me now arranging some of the ovals to see where I'd like them, to see how many of the various sizes I'm going to use, and to double check whether I need to cut any more. The big ovals are a little bit too big, so I'm going to poke just a couple of those on the page and poke them behind the photograph. But I think I need a little bit more ink, so I'm going back in to do a little bit more inking, making some of it a little bit more defined and a little bit more smudgy in places, and just to extend that a little bit, just so that I'm not covering most of it up with my various embellishments I'm using here. So, and I'm going to pop those back down again and arrange them and see where we like to go with this. You will see I've also got my title at the top there of around, and I also have some other words there which say not going to be around, not going to be the same around here, is what my title is finally going to read. So I like those in there, but I want to put a deeper edge around them. So the thought is to come in with a pro marker, which is an aqua marker one, and do a black line around the ovals, and I wasn't sure whether I wanted it really scruffy or whether I wanted a little bit neater, so I come in here and neatened it up a little bit more. Quite a thick edge around that one because it's a larger oval, and a little bit smaller around some of the little ones. I'm also going to shade those down later on because it looks quite stark at the moment, but the overall effect that I'm going for at the end, you'll see that. One of the first pages that I've actually done in a while where I knew exactly where I was going with everything before I started. A lot of the times I sort of chop and change whilst I'm doing what I'm doing. So pop those down there, quite like them there, so I decide that that's where they're going to be. So now I know where everything is. I am going to glue down some of the ovals, but just to make sure that there is no little white annoying edge. As I go through, I am going to just edge every single one of them with a little bit of ink and then stick them down into place. When you cut the paper, sometimes you get a very white edge, and I know that I won't have covered all of that when I did the black pen, because I did the black pen more on the top rather than on the side of the paper. So I'm just finishing that off there. So as I said, this page is for a retreat that I'm going to, and the challenge was to use ovals, so I'm glad I did. It's quite a nice shape and a little bit different to, I'm always cutting out circles. I did also forget before I started videoing this that I should have covered my son's face, so I know I'm going to get a bit of flack for that from him because I've not covered it, and he said to me I shouldn't use his picture, his image, without covering it so that people couldn't recognize him, so I'm going to be in trouble. but oh well, I can't do anything about that now. So now I'm just coming in with a stamp and some Impress ink, which is in jet black, just to add a little bit more of a soft touch around the page and a little bit of more interest to the page. So I'm just doing a few swirls, and then I come in with a few little smaller ones to just dot around, just to stop the page from being too stark and to give it a little bit more interest. And now I have my Jane Davenport mermaid marker. I love the mermaid markers. I do often squeeze them so that I get lots of big drops. I find them so easy to splatter with, and just love the fact that the colours are so vibrant and don't diminish when they dry. Candy's come in to see what's happening here. I have some stupendous chunky white enamel that I've scattered across the background here, and heating from underneath melts it. Of course, if you try to heat from the top, you're going to blow it all over the place and it's going to move from where it is. That's what this one's intended to do, so you don't need to put ink down like you do with other enamels, wow enamels and things like that. You heat this one from below. So I keep adding a little bit more, and then think, actually, no, I really want a little bit more again. So I keep adding to this and heating it off camera so that I don't bore you too much. I'm just having a look at that and tapping off any excess. You can now heat it now that it is stuck down, if you want to melt it a little bit more, or it stays quite chunky and it is absolutely gorgeous. So my picture's going to go back there, just tapping off any excess and getting that out of the way so that I can continue with the next bit. So we're going to take that photograph and we're going to back it on a little piece of shimmery blue card stock here, because I think it needed something else to make it stand out and to pop a little bit. So I back it on this paper and cut off the excess, and it just trims it up nicely. It just makes it just stand out a little bit more. So we're going to arrange the title again, just to make sure that my picture is going to be going right where I want it. And I don't like the title in the white, so I'm coming in with the Art Nouveau pens. So this is a very sparkly blue pen, so I'm just colouring that in and going to colour in all of the others, marking where the A is, and then the rest of them I don't put back on the page after I've coloured them in. Yes, these are lovely pens, and a nice ink, and they stay very vibrant, and it has a nice glitter to it as well. So I'm just colouring all of those in, and I am getting towards the end of the page. There is one more little technique after the title that I'm going to try out. So I am recording this video early before I go off to my retreat and scheduling it to upload, which is quite new for me and I'm quite excited about. I tested it out last week when I uploaded my video and set it to upload 20 minutes later. So I'm now just putting some foam on the back of the photograph for two reasons. One, because the page is a tiny bit warped, it'll be easier to stick, and also because of the enamel raises it up, it's easier to stick with the foam. So I'm sticking down my title now, and then my last thing that I need to do is put the rest of the words down and finish them off. So I've realised that I've done a blue page. With the retreat that I'm going to, there was 12 challenges, and I did realise that I'd done a similar sort of technique with another page, and again in blue. I'm not sure whether blue's just one of my favourite colours to scrapbook with. It's funky and bright, and I suppose we do lots of beach pages and things like that. So I've put my title on in a line like that, and I'm coming in with some charcoal. I just smudged that a little bit with my finger and then thought, actually, I need a proper smudger. So these are proper smudgers. They are effectively paper pencils. So you can sharpen them once they become blunt, and you can just smudge with them, and it just gives a lovely overall different effect to your words. It makes them stand out, and it makes them more of an element on the page than just floating there telling a little bit of a story. As I say, this is one of the last meals we had together at one of our favourite local pubs, which we used to go to an awful lot and haven't of late. And this was just before my daughter headed off to university, and my son followed, going to another university a couple of weeks later. So it was just a nice way to spend an evening, and they were at the tables Snapchatting and taking some photographs of themselves, so I did have to steal them all. So I'm now coming in with the charcoal around the ovals as well, and this just softens them up, and I feel like makes them connect more with the paper. Sometimes when you pop things like this on, I find that it just seems to float and doesn't really connect with what your with your whole background and your whole page. And with this smudging, it kind of just literally sticks it and embeds it to the rest of the page, and just make it belong there. So last task to do for my page, as always, is to add my little cat. So she's going on at the bottom here, and we are done. I hope you've enjoyed this video and you've learnt a new technique or two, and I've inspired you to go and create something magical for yourself. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.